Welcome to Agenda Edina, a program summarizing the actions taken at City Hall that affect you most. I'm your host, Dorothea Marty. Food delivery services like DoorDash and Grubhub aren't able to take as big a bite out of restaurant profits in Edina. Earlier this month, the City Council approved an emergency regulation that limits the commissions delivery services can withhold from restaurant operations. The move is aimed to help the city's restaurants, already battered by months of pandemic restrictions and changing consumer behavior. While web-based delivery services are convenient for customers, they eat into the restaurant's profit margins, gobbling up as much as 40% of the sale price and commissions that are not currently disclosed to the customer. In Edina, commissions withheld from restaurants are now limited to 15%.
Over the last several months, we've heard from a lot of our local residents. They want to patronize our businesses. They want to support them. They think they're doing the right thing by ordering through some of these other vendors. Well, behind the scenes, they don't know what's actually hurting those restaurants. So part of the Edina regulation is just to raise that commission to the conscious level of the consumer. The consumer can then choose. Do they want to patronize and use that third-party vendor? Or do they want to call the restaurant directly? Consumers still have that choice, but we felt that they needed to know what's really happening behind the scenes.
Third-party delivery services must also provide customers an itemized receipt that discloses not only the cost of their meal and customer delivery fees, but also the commission that is withheld from the restaurant operator. The regulations are identical to a new regulation in Minneapolis. Other cities are considering similar requirements. The City of Edina will enforce the emergency regulation when it receives a formal complaint from a restaurant operator. City employees on the front line of medical emergencies are being vaccinated against the virus that causes COVID-19. Police officers, paramedics, and others who provide life-saving first aid are considered high risk for exposure to the novel coronavirus. Edina TV tells us more about the first phase of the vaccine rollout in Edina.
This was the moment the Moderna COVID-19 vaccine arrived at the Bloomington Public Health Center at the end of December.
It's probably one of the more exciting times to get the vaccine, just because we've been in this pandemic for several months and so many people have been dying from COVID, and this might give us a chance to get people vaccinated to prevent that from happening further.
But making that happen is no easy task.
I have you in the system.
Getting the vaccine into arms first took months of research, then the work of finding necessary supplies like protective equipment and syringes. And people had to be trained to give a vaccine that must be kept very cold until it's ready to use.
Great, so I got 10.
When we can have it at room temperature when we're using it, it can only be for a certain number of hours. And then once we puncture a vial to do immunizations, we have a 6-hour window to use the vaccine that was in that vial.
The first phase of the vaccination rollout for first responders in Edina began on January 5th at Fire Station 1.
Your arm's probably going to be sore tomorrow.
The city is following guidance from the Minnesota Department of Health and the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention by prioritizing the men and women who care for the sick.
One of the challenges we've struggled with this entire pandemic is making sure our healthcare capacity is sufficient. And in this case, the staff doing that first part of healthcare in the field with EMS is critical so that they are there to always be able to respond to 911 in case we get that big surge of cases, and they need to be able to be there to take care of the residents of Edina.
Phase 3 trials found the vaccine was more than 94% effective.
We're ready to vaccinate you, so if you'll take a seat over here.
Edina police and paramedics will return 28 days later for a second shot.
So far, so good.
During the pandemic, the Edina paramedics and police officers have been responding to patients with known COVID, managing those patients and getting them into the healthcare system. So there's always kind of been a level of stress amongst the staff about, making sure that they keep themselves protected and healthy.
Residents of long-term care facilities are also part of the first group receiving the Moderna vaccine.
And we're hopeful that we're going to get through this phase 1A, as quickly as possible so we can move on to more of the general public.
Kelly says that's months away.
Be patient. You've done such a good job for many months protecting yourself, following public health guidance. We are close.
Work to protect the community from a deadly disease, one shot at a time.
Our vaccines are incredibly effective, incredibly safe, and it's really a privilege to be able to be doing this from a public health standpoint.
I'm Dan Carpenter for Edina TV.
The priority groups for the next phase of the vaccine rollout are being determined. Residents are reminded to continue practicing good hygiene habits, including washing hands, wearing masks, and staying 6 feet from others. Visit edinamn.gov/coronavirus for updates. Improvements are coming to the Grandview district, including a roundabout at the busy intersection of Eden and Arcadia Avenues. Last month, the Housing and Redevelopment Authority approved engineering services with SEH, Bar Engineering, and Kimley Horn to finalize plans worth more than $5 million in potential improvements funded by the Grandview 2 Tax Increment Financing District. The funds must be committed by June 2021. The project would include reconstruction of Eden Avenue from Grandview Square to the Minnesota Highway 100 on-ramp, construction of a new concrete sidewalk on the north side, and a shared-use path on the south side of the street. Improvements to the sanitary sewer, water main, and storm sewer systems are also planned, as well as the relocation of Sanitary Lift Station 9. To improve safety, city staff have also proposed closing one of the 2 on-ramps to southbound Highway 100 that serve the Grandview area. The southbound ramp, accessed from Eden Avenue, provides limited space for traffic to merge as they enter the highway. The idea of closing the on-ramp will be tested in the spring before construction designs are finalized.
We're going to do a whole variety of improvements out here. One is the roundabout. The other one, that's going to improve traffic flow and create a safer network for the pedestrians to cross. But we're really looking forward to expanding those sidewalks on both sides of Eden Avenue from almost Highway 100 all the way to the Grandview Square. So it's really going to have 2 full facilities on both sides. The one on the south is going to be extra wide so bikes could use it. And we're going to continue to push that forward to the west when we have opportunities. But I think the real big benefit is that pedestrian network connectedness between even City Hall. Right now you get up to the bridge and it kind of goes blank if you're trying to get over to Jerry's. So that whole north segment will now be complete after this project.
Street improvements would also be done along Brookside Avenue from Eden to the Grandview parking ramp. New lighting and security cameras would be installed in the parking ramp and wayfinding signage to the ramp added. Some structural improvements to the ramp would also be made. The city of Edina continues to closely monitor the spread of the novel coronavirus and is keeping those who live and work here up to date about COVID-19. Please visit edinamn.gov/coronavirus for the latest updates or sign up to receive City Extra emails or text messages. Thank you for watching this episode of Agenda Edina. I'm your host, Dorothea Marty.